Your thoughts are not happening to you, they are happening because of you, and that changes everything. Right now, in this very moment, you have approximately 60,000 thoughts racing through your mind today, tomorrow, and every day for the rest of your life. But here's what nobody tells you. Most people are completely unconscious of this process. They let their thoughts run wild, like an untrained dog destroying everything in its path. Their relationships, their confidence, their dreams, their entire future. But what if I told you that you could take complete control of this process? What if every thought that entered your mind could be filtered, edited, and directed like a master conductor leading an orchestra? What if instead of being a victim of your own thinking, you became the architect of your mental landscape? This isn't wishful thinking. This is neuroscience. This is psychology. This is the difference between people who drift through life and those who design it. The average person thinks the same thoughts today that they thought yesterday, and they'll think the same thoughts tomorrow. They're stuck in mental loops, patterns that were programmed years or even decades ago by parents, teachers, society, and their own repeated experiences. But you're not average. You're here because you know there's more. You know that the quality of your thoughts determines the quality of your life, and you're ready to take control. In this comprehensive guide, we're going to rewire your mental operating system from the ground up. You'll learn the science behind thought control, discover why most people fail at managing their minds, and master the exact techniques that high performers use to think with precision and power. This isn't about positive thinking. This is about thought mastery, the ability to choose what enters your mind and what gets expelled, the power to transform any thought into one that serves your highest good. Your mind is the most powerful tool you possess, but only if you know how to use it. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Hidden Power of Thought Control. Most people believe they are their thoughts. They think that the voice in their head, that constant chatter of opinions, judgments, worries, and commentary, is who they really are. But this is the greatest illusion of human existence. You are not your thoughts. You are the observer of your thoughts. And once you understand this fundamental distinction, everything changes. Think about this for a moment. If you were your thoughts, then who is the one noticing those thoughts right now? Who is aware that thinking is happening? There's a part of you that can step back and observe your mental activity, like watching cars pass by on a highway. This observer, this awareness is your true self, and it has the power to direct, influence, and completely transform the thoughts that flow through your consciousness. The science is clear. Neuroplasticity research has proven that your brain is constantly rewiring itself based on your thoughts and experiences. Every time you think a thought, you strengthen certain neural pathways while allowing others to weaken. This means that your current patterns of thinking are not permanent. They are simply the result of repetition, and they can be changed with the right approach. But here's where most people go wrong. They try to fight their thoughts. They attempt to suppress negative thinking or force positive thoughts. And this creates what psychologists call the ironic process theory. The more you try not to think about something, the more you think about it. It's like telling someone not to think about a pink elephant. Suddenly, that's all they can think about. Real thought control isn't about forcing or fighting. It's about understanding the mechanics of how thoughts work, and then using that knowledge to guide your mental processes with skill and precision. It's about becoming the director of your own mental movie, rather than being a passive viewer of whatever random scenes your unconscious mind decides to play. The most successful people in any field have mastered this art. They understand that their external success is directly proportional to their internal thought management. They know that every breakthrough, every achievement, every moment, genius started with a single controlled thought that was nurtured, cultivated, and acted upon. while distracting or limiting thoughts were gently redirected or released. Consider the thoughts you've had today. How many of them served your goals and dreams? How many expanded your possibilities versus how many contracted them? How many lifted your energy versus how many drained it? Most people would be shocked to discover that the vast majority of their thoughts are either neutral or actively working against their best interests. This is why thought control is not a luxury. It's a necessity. If you want to create the life you desire, you must become the master of your mental domain. You must learn to consciously choose thoughts that align with your vision, support your goals, and elevate your emotional state. This skill, more than any other, determines whether you'll live a life of mediocrity or magnificence. The power you're about to discover has been used by great leaders, inventors, artists, and entrepreneurs. Throughout history, they understood that controlling their thoughts was the key to controlling their destiny. And now you're going to learn their secrets. You're going to discover how to transform your mind from a source of chaos and limitation into your greatest ally and most powerful tool. But this power comes with responsibility. Once you understand how to control your thoughts, you become accountable for every mental pattern you maintain, every limiting belief you entertain, and every negative thought loop you allow to continue. The victim mentality dies here, because you'll know with absolute certainty that you have the power to change any thought at any time. Are you ready to step into this power? Are you ready to take full responsibility for your mental landscape and use it to design the life you've always wanted? Then let's dive deeper into the mechanics of how your mind really works and how you can begin to master it starting today. Chapter 2. Understanding your mental operating system. Your mind operates like a sophisticated computer with multiple programs running simultaneously in the background. And just like a computer that's been accumulating software for years, your mental operating system has become cluttered with outdated programs, conflicting instructions, and energy-draining processes that slow down your performance and limit your potential. The conscious mind, the part of you that's reading these words right now, processes about 40 bits of information per second. It's logical, analytical, and focused on the present moment, but it represents only a tiny fraction of your total mental processing power. The real powerhouse is your subconscious mind, which processes over 11 million bits of information per second and runs the vast majority of your automatic thoughts, behaviors, and responses. Your subconscious is like the foundation of a house. It's mostly invisible, but it determines the stability and structure of everything built on top of it. This is where your core beliefs live, your automatic emotional responses, habits, and the mental programs that were installed throughout your life, especially during your first 7 years when your brain was in a highly programmable theta state. These subconscious programs are what create the majority of your daily thoughts. They're like background apps, constantly running, generating thoughts that feel automatic and true but are really just the result of old programming. Some of these programs serve you well, like the automatic thoughts that help you drive a car or brush your teeth. But many others are outdated, limiting, and actively sabotaging your success and happiness. For example, if you were repeatedly told as a child that you weren't good enough, your subconscious installed a program that automatically generates thoughts of self-doubt and inadequacy. These thoughts feel real and true because they're so familiar, but they're really just old software running on autopilot, creating a reality that matches the programming. The key to thought control is understanding that you can consciously choose to interrupt these automatic programs and install new ones, just like updating software on your computer. But first, you need to become aware of what programs are currently running. Most people are completely unconscious of their mental software. They think their automatic thoughts are facts, rather than just data processing from old programming. Here's how to begin auditing your mental operating system. Start paying attention to your thoughts without judgment for 1 full day. Simply notice what your mind generates when you wake up, when you look in the mirror, when you think about your goals, when you interact with others, when you face challenges? What are the automatic thoughts that arise? You'll likely discover patterns. Certain types of situations trigger predictable thought responses. You might notice that you have default thoughts about your capabilities, your worth, your future possibilities, and other people. These patterns reveal your current programming, and once you can see them clearly, you can begin to change them. The beautiful truth is that your brain doesn't distinguish between thoughts that were installed by others and thoughts that you consciously choose. It simply runs whatever program receives the most repetition and emotional intensity. This means you can literally reprogram yourself by consciously choosing new thoughts and repeating them with consistency and feeling until they become your new automatic patterns. But reprogramming isn't just about replacing negative thoughts with positive ones. It's about upgrading your entire thought architecture. It's about installing programs that serve your highest vision rather than just maintaining the status quo. It's about becoming the programmer of your own mind, rather than being stuck with whatever software others installed. Think of it this way. If someone else had been programming your computer for years, installing whatever software they thought you needed, would you keep running those programs forever, or would you take control and install programs that actually serve your goals and priorities? Your mind deserves the same conscious attention and intentional programming. The most successful people understand this principle. They regularly audit their mental software, removing programs that don't serve them and installing new ones that support their vision. They understand that their thoughts are not random events, but the result of programming, and they take full responsibility for managing that programming. This is why some people seem to naturally think empowering thoughts, while others struggle with constant negativity. It's not about willpower or personality. It's about programming, and programming can always be changed with right approach and consistent application. Your current thoughts are creating your current reality, which means that changing your thoughts is the most direct path to changing your life. But first, you need to understand exactly how thoughts become things, how mental energy transforms into physical experience, and why thought control is the ultimate life skill. Chapter 3. How thoughts become your reality. Every single thing in your external world started as a thought in someone's mind. The device you're using to access this content, the building you're in, the clothes you're wearing, the relationships you have, the job you do or don't have. All of it began as mental energy before it became physical reality. This isn't metaphysical speculation. This is observable fact. But the connection between thoughts and reality goes much deeper than just the things humans create. Your thoughts are constantly shaping your perception of reality, filtering what you notice, what you ignore, what opportunities you see, what possibilities you consider. This perceptual filtering is so powerful that two people can look at the exact same situation and see completely different realities based solely on their thought patterns. Your brain contains a network called the reticular activating system, or RAS, which acts like a search engine for your consciousness. It takes the thoughts you think most often and uses them as search criteria, highlighting information that matches those thoughts, while filtering out information that doesn't. This is why when you're thinking about buying a particular car, you suddenly see that car everywhere. It was always there, but your RAS wasn't programmed to notice it. This system is constantly working, whether you're conscious of it or not. If your dominant thoughts are about lack and limitation, your RAS will highlight evidence of scarcity and filter out opportunities for abundance. If your thoughts focus on problems and obstacles, your brain will become expert at spotting what's wrong while missing what's possible. But if you program your RAS with thoughts of opportunity, growth, and possibility, it will highlight pathways to success that were invisible before. Your thoughts also directly influence your emotional state, and your emotions determine the actions you take or don't take. When you think fearful thoughts, you feel afraid and take fearful actions. or no action at all when you think confident thoughts. You feel empowered and take bold actions that create results. This thought, emotion, action cycle is the mechanism through which your internal world creates your external circumstances. Consider how this plays out in real life. Someone who consistently thinks thoughts like, "I'm not good enough," will feel insecure and anxious. These emotions will cause them to avoid opportunities, play small and settle for less. Their actions or lack of actions will create results that confirm their original thought, creating a self-fulfilling prophecy that seems to prove the thought was true all along. But someone who thinks thoughts like, "I'm constantly growing and improving," will feel motivated and optimistic. These emotions will drive them to take action, seek opportunities, and persist through challenges. Their actions will create better results, which will reinforce their empowering thoughts, creating an upward spiral of success and fulfillment. The most fascinating part is that both people might have identical external circumstances, but their different thought patterns create completely different experiences. One person's limitation is another person's opportunity. One person's setback is another person's setup for a comeback. It all depends on the programming running in their mental operating system. This is why positive thinking alone isn't enough. It's not about pretending everything is perfect or denying reality. It's about consciously choosing thoughts that empower you to create the reality you want, rather than unconsciously accepting thoughts that keep you trapped in realities you don't want. Your thoughts are like seeds. Every thought you think is planting something in the garden of your consciousness. Negative thoughts plant weeds that choke out your potential, while empowering thoughts plant flowers that bloom into beautiful experiences. But here's the crucial part. You get to choose what seeds to plant and which ones to uproot. Most people plant whatever seeds are handed to them by their environment, their past, their fears, or their limiting beliefs. They let other people's opinions become their thoughts, other people's limitations become their boundaries, and other people's programming become their reality. But you have the power to become a conscious gardener of your mind. This means taking full responsibility for every thought you entertain, because every thought is either moving you toward the life you want or away from it. There are no neutral thoughts. Every mental seed you plant will eventually produce harvest, and that harvest becomes your lived experience. The science backs this up. Neuroplasticity research shows that your brain physically changes based on your thought patterns. Repeated thoughts create neural pathways that become highways for future thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. This means that your current reality is literally hardwired into your brain, but it also means you can rewire it by changing your thought patterns. When you understand that your thoughts are not random events, but creative forces that shape your reality, everything changes. You stop being a victim of your circumstances and start being the creator of them. You realize that changing your life doesn't require changing your external situation. First, it requires changing your internal programming. This is why thought control is the ultimate life skill. It's not about controlling every random thought that pops into your head. It's about consciously choosing the dominant thought patterns that program your RAS guide, your emotions, and drive your actions. It's about becoming the architect of your own experience, rather than a passive observer of whatever reality your unconscious mind creates. Chapter 4. The Science of Neuroplasticity and Mental Rewiring. For most of human history, scientists believed that the adult brain was fixed and unchangeable. They thought that once you reached a certain age, your neural pathways were set in stone and your mental patterns were permanent. This led to the limiting belief that you were stuck with whatever personality, thoughts, and capabilities you developed in childhood. But everything changed when researchers discovered neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is your brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections throughout your entire life. This means that every time you think a thought, you are literally reshaping your brain at the cellular level. Strengthening some pathways while allowing others to weaken your brain is not a static organ. It's a dynamic, ever-changing network that responds to your mental activity. Think of your neural pathways like trails through a forest. When you think the same thoughts repeatedly, you're walking the same mental trail over and over until it becomes a well-worn path that's easy to follow. This is why habitual thoughts feel so automatic and true. They're running on neural superhighways that have been reinforced through repetition. But when you consciously choose new thoughts, you're blazing new trails through the forest. At first, these new trails are difficult to follow. They require conscious effort and feel unfamiliar, but with consistent use, they become stronger and easier to navigate. Meanwhile, the old trails that you stop using begin to fade and become overgrown. This is the biological basis of thought control. You can literally rewire your brain by changing your thinking patterns. The most fascinating discovery is that your brain doesn't distinguish between thoughts that are based on current reality and thoughts that are imagined. When you vividly imagine a new way of thinking, being, or acting, your brain begins to create the neural infrastructure to support that new pattern. This is why visualization and mental rehearsal are so powerful. They allow you to pre-wire your brain for success. Research has shown that people who mentally practice a skill show almost as much improvement as those who physically practice the same skill. Olympic athletes who visualize their performance activate the same neural pathways as when they actually compete. Musicians who mentally rehearse pieces strengthen the same brain regions as when they physically play their instruments. Your brain treats imagined thoughts as real experiences. This has profound implications for thought control. It means that you don't have to wait for external circumstances to change before you can think differently. You can begin rewiring your brain right now by consciously choosing new thought patterns and repeating them with consistency and emotional intensity. Every time you choose a new thought, you're literally building new neural real estate. But here's the key. The brain changes based on the thoughts that receive the most repetition and emotional charge. Simply thinking a positive thought once won't create lasting change. You need to consistently choose the new thought pattern while simultaneously weakening the old one. This requires what neuroscientists call effortful processing, deliberately choosing thoughts rather than running on autopilot. The process of rewiring your brain happens in stages. First, you become conscious of your current thought patterns. This awareness alone begins to weaken their automatic power. Then you consciously choose new thoughts that align with who you want to become next. You repeat these new thoughts consistently until they begin to feel more natural. Finally, the new patterns become automatic, and you've successfully rewired your brain. The timeline for neuroplastic change varies depending on the complexity of the pattern and the consistency of practice. Simple thought patterns can begin to shift within days, while deeper, more ingrained patterns may take weeks or months to fully transform. But the key is understanding that change is not only possible, it's inevitable when you apply the principles correctly. One of the most powerful aspects of neuroplasticity is that your brain is constantly changing whether you're conscious of it or not. Every thought you think is either strengthening patterns that serve you or patterns that limit you. There is no neutral ground. This means that choosing not to consciously direct your thoughts is still a choice. It's choosing to let your brain be programmed by random external influences rather than by your conscious intentions. The most successful people understand this. They know that their brain is their most valuable asset, and they treat it accordingly. They consciously choose thoughts that support their goals, rather than leaving their mental programming to chance they understand that neuroplasticity gives them the power to literally design their own mind. This is why traditional approaches to personal development often fail. They focus on changing external behaviors without addressing the underlying neural patterns that drive those behaviors. But when you change your thought patterns at the neurological level, behavioral change becomes natural and effortless because you've changed the programming that creates the behavior. The science of neuroplasticity proves that you are not stuck with your current thought patterns, no matter how long you've had them or how automatic they feel. Your brain is designed to change, and it will change in whatever direction you consistently guide it. This is perhaps the most empowering discovery in all of neuroscience. You have the power to literally rewire your brain for success, happiness, and unlimited potential. Understanding neuroplasticity is just the beginning now. You need to learn the practical techniques for harnessing this power, the specific methods for identifying limiting thought patterns, interrupting them, and installing new ones that serve your highest vision. This is where neuroscience meets practical application, where understanding becomes transformation. Chapter 5. Breaking free from automatic thought patterns. The average person thinks between 60 and 70,000 thoughts per day. But here's the shocking truth. 90% of those thoughts are identical to the thoughts they had yesterday and the day before. That most people are living their lives on mental autopilot, running the same thought programs over and over, creating the same emotions, taking the same actions, and getting the same results, while wondering why their life never changes. These automatic thought patterns are like invisible prison cells that keep you trapped in familiar but limiting realities. They feel safe because they're predictable, but they're actually stealing your potential and keeping you stuck in outdated versions of yourself. The first step to thought control is recognizing these patterns and understanding how they operate below the level of conscious awareness. Automatic thoughts arise so quickly and feel so natural that most people never question them. They accept them as truth rather than recognizing them as conditioned responses that were programmed through repetition. These thoughts often carry emotional charges from past experiences, making them feel even more real and important. But just because a thought feels true doesn't mean it serves your highest good. The most common automatic thought patterns fall into several categories. Worry thoughts that project negative outcomes into the future. Judgment thoughts that evaluate yourself or others. Critically comparison thoughts that measure your life against others. Victim thoughts that blame external circumstances for your situation. And limitation thoughts that focus on what's not possible rather than what is. Each of these patterns was learned through repetition and reinforcement. Somewhere in your past, you learned that worrying about the future kept you safe, that judging others made you feel superior, that comparing yourself motivated improvement, that blaming circumstances protected your ego, and that focusing on limitations prevented disappointment. But these strategies that may have served you once are now limiting your growth. The key to breaking free from automatic patterns is developing what psychologists call metacognition, the ability to think about your thinking. This means becoming the observer of your mental activity rather than being unconsciously identified with every thought that arises. When you can step back and watch your thoughts, you gain the power to choose which ones to engage with and which ones to let pass by. Start by practicing thought awareness throughout your day. Set random alarms on your phone, and when they go off, pause and notice what you were just thinking. Don't judge the thoughts, simply observe them. Ask yourself, is this thought serving me? Is it moving me toward my goals or away from them? Is it based on current reality or old programming? This simple practice begins to break the unconscious identification with automatic thoughts. Another powerful technique is thought labeling. When you notice an automatic pattern, Arising, simply label it. Mentally: worry, thought; judgment, thought; comparison, thought; limitation, thought. This labeling creates space between you and the thought. Rather than being the thought, you become the observer of the thought. This distance gives you the power to choose whether to engage with it or let it pass. You can also use the questioning technique when an automatic thought arises. Ask yourself a series of questions. Is this thought absolutely true? How do I feel when I think this thought? What would I be like without this thought? What evidence supports this thought, and what evidence contradicts it? This process helps you realize that most automatic thoughts are not facts, but interpretations that can be changed. The pause and replace method is another effective approach. When you catch an automatic thought that doesn't serve you, pause and consciously replace it with a thought that aligns with your goals and values. This isn't about forced, positive thinking. It's about conscious thought selection, choosing thoughts that empower you rather than limit you. For example, if you catch yourself thinking, "I'll never be successful," you can pause and replace it with, "I'm learning and growing every day." If you notice, "I'm not good enough," you can shift to, "I'm constantly improving and becoming better." If you observe, "This is too hard," you can choose, "I enjoy challenges because they help me grow." The key is selecting replacement thoughts that feel believable and empowering. Physical interruption can also help break automatic patterns. When you notice a limiting thought loop, clap your hands, stomp your feet, take 3 deep breaths, or change your physical position. These actions interrupt the neural pattern and create space for new thoughts to emerge. Your mind and body are connected, so changing your physiology can help change your mental state. The most important thing to understand is that breaking free from automatic patterns is a skill that improves with practice. At first, you'll catch these thoughts after they've been running for a while, but gradually you'll notice them sooner and sooner, until you can catch them the moment they arise, and eventually you'll prevent them from arising altogether as you install new automatic patterns that serve you better. Remember that automatic thoughts gain their power through repetition, which means they'll lose their power the same way. Every time you choose not to engage with a limiting thought, you weaken its neural pathway. Every time you consciously choose an empowering thought, you strengthen that pathway. You're literally rewiring your brain for success rather than limitation. The goal isn't to eliminate all automatic thoughts. That's impossible and unnecessary. The goal is to become conscious of your mental activity and systematically replace patterns that limit you with patterns that empower you. This is how you transform your mind from a source of limitation into your greatest asset for creating the life you desire. Chapter 6. The Power of Conscious Thought Selection. Most people believe they have no choice over their thoughts. They think thoughts just happen to them like weather patterns or random events. But this is one of the most disempowering beliefs you can hold, because it makes you a victim of your own mind. The truth is that while you cannot control every thought that arises, you have complete power over which thoughts you choose to engage with, nurture, and act upon. This is the essence of conscious thought selection. Think of your mind as a garden where thoughts are like seeds. Some seeds blow in from external sources like conversations, media, or environmental triggers, while others arise from your subconscious programming. But just because a seed lands in your garden doesn't mean you have to water it and help it grow. You can choose which thoughts to cultivate and which ones to pull up like weeds before they take root. The first principle of conscious thought selection is understanding the difference between thoughts that arise and thoughts that you entertain. A thought arising is like a knock at your door. It happens automatically based on triggers, conditioning, or random neural firing, but entertaining a thought is like opening the door and inviting that visitor to stay for dinner. You have complete control over this invitation process. When a thought arises, you have approximately 90 seconds before it either fades away or gets reinforced through attention during this critical window. You can choose to engage with the thought, feed it with attention and emotional energy, or you can acknowledge it briefly and then redirect your focus elsewhere. This choice point is where your power lies, and learning to use it effectively is the foundation of thought control. The key is developing what we call thought discrimination, the ability to quickly evaluate whether a thought serves your highest good or not. This requires creating clear criteria for what thoughts deserve your attention and which ones should be dismissed. Without engagement, these criteria should be based on your values, goals, and the kind of person you want to become. For example, you might establish criteria like, does this thought move me toward my goals or away from them? Does it increase my energy or drain it? Does it expand my possibilities or contract them? Does it align with my values or contradict them? Does it help me become the person I want to be, or keep me stuck in old patterns? Having clear criteria allows you to make quick decisions about which thoughts deserve your precious mental energy. The practice of conscious thought selection requires developing what meditation teachers call mindful awareness. This is the ability to observe your thoughts without being immediately swept away by them. It's like standing on the bank of a river, watching thoughts flow by, rather than jumping into the river and being carried downstream by every thought that passes. One powerful technique for developing this skill is the noting practice. When a thought arises, simply note it mentally by saying thought, thought, or by categorizing it more specifically like worry, thought, planning, thought, memory, thought, or fantasy thought. This simple act of noting creates space between you and the thought, allowing you to observe it rather than be consumed by it. Another effective method is the 5-second rule. When a disempowering thought arises, give yourself 5 seconds to decide whether to engage with it or not. During these 5 seconds, ask yourself, does this thought serve me? If the answer is no, simply redirect your attention to something more empowering. If the answer is yes, then you can choose to explore it further. But make it a conscious choice, rather than an automatic reaction. The replacement technique is also crucial for conscious thought selection. When you choose not to engage with a limiting thought, you need to have something better to focus on. Instead, nature abhors a vacuum, and your mind needs something to think about. Prepare a collection of empowering thoughts, questions, or focus points that you can immediately shift to when you dismiss an unwanted thought. These replacement thoughts should be personally meaningful and emotionally engaging. They might be affirmations about your capabilities, gratitude statements about your blessings, visualization of your goals, questions about opportunities, or simply focusing on your breathing or physical sensations. The key is having these ready so you can immediately redirect your mental energy when needed. It's important to understand that conscious thought selection is not about suppressing or fighting unwanted thoughts. Suppression often backfires by giving the unwanted thought more power and attention. Instead, it's about making conscious choices about where to direct your mental energy, just like you choose what to watch on television or what food to eat. You can choose what thoughts to feed and strengthen. The more you practice conscious thought selection, the stronger your mental discipline becomes. You begin to notice that you have far more control over your mental state than you previously realized. You start to see thoughts as tools that you can pick up or put down rather than forces that control you. This shift in perspective is incredibly empowering because it puts you back in the driver's seat of your own experience. Advanced practitioners of conscious thought selection Develop the ability to not only choose which thoughts to engage with, but also to deliberately generate thoughts that serve their purposes. They can consciously call up empowering thoughts, resourceful states, and creative insights when needed. This level of mental mastery allows them to consistently operate from their highest and best thinking regardless of external circumstances. The practice also extends to what you allow into your mental environment, just as you would be careful about what food you put into your body. You should be intentional about what mental food you consume through media, conversations, books, and entertainment. Everything you expose your mind to influences your thought patterns. So, choosing high-quality mental input is part of conscious thought selection. Remember that every thought you choose to engage with is like a vote for the kind of person you want to become and the kind of life you want to create. When you consistently choose empowering thoughts, you're literally training your brain to default to empowerment. When you repeatedly select thoughts of possibility and growth, you're programming yourself for success and expansion. The goal is not to achieve perfect thought control overnight, but to gradually increase your percentage of conscious thought selection. Maybe you start by consciously choosing your thoughts 10% of the time, then 20%, then 50%, until it becomes your natural way of operating. Each conscious choice strengthens your mental muscles and makes the next choice easier. Conscious thought selection is the bridge between unconscious mental patterns and deliberate life creation. It's the skill that allows you to stop being a victim of random thoughts and start being the curator of your mental experience. When you master this skill, you gain the power to consistently think thoughts that align with your highest vision and support your greatest potential. Chapter 7. Mastering your internal dialogue. The voice in your head never stops talking. It provides commentary on everything you experience, offers opinions about yourself and others, makes predictions about the future, and constantly evaluates your performance. This internal dialogue is so constant and familiar that most people never question it. They assume it's just who they are. But your internal voice is not your identity. It's a learned pattern that can be transformed and optimized to serve your highest good. Your internal dialogue was primarily shaped during your childhood by the voices of authority figures in your life. Parents, teachers, coaches, and siblings all contributed to the tone, style, and content of your inner voice. If you grew up with critical, judgmental voices around you, your internal dialogue likely mirrors those patterns. If you were surrounded by encouraging, supportive voices, your inner voice probably reflects that positivity. But regardless of how it was programmed, you have the power to reprogram it. The first step in mastering your internal dialogue is becoming aware of its current patterns. Most people are so identified with their inner voice that they don't realize they can observe it and change it. Start paying attention to the tone of your internal dialogue. Is it encouraging or critical, supportive or judgmental, kind or harsh, patient, or demanding? This awareness alone begins to create the space needed for transformation. Notice the language patterns your internal voice uses. Does it speak in absolutes like always, never, or everyone? Does it use empowering language or disempowering language? Does it focus on possibilities or limitations? Does it speak about you with respect and love or with criticism and judgment? These patterns reveal the programming that's currently running your mental software. Pay attention to the timing of your internal dialogue. When does it become most active or most negative? Is it loudest when you're facing challenges, making decisions, or comparing yourself to others? Does it interrupt your peace during meditation or quiet moments? Understanding when your internal voice is most problematic helps you prepare strategies for those specific situations. The quality of your internal dialogue directly impacts your emotional state, self-confidence, decision-making ability, and overall life experience. If your inner voice constantly criticizes your efforts, points out your flaws, and predicts negative outcomes, you'll feel anxious, insecure, and unmotivated. But if your internal dialogue encourages your efforts, celebrates your progress, and focuses on possibilities, you'll feel confident, optimistic, and energized. One of the most powerful techniques for transforming your internal dialogue is conscious voice modification. This involves deliberately changing the tone, speed, volume, and quality of your inner voice. If your internal dialogue is harsh, critical, practice speaking to yourself with the same kindness you would show a beloved friend. If it's negative and pessimistic, consciously shift to a more encouraging and optimistic tone. You can also experiment with changing the voice itself. Some people find it helpful to imagine their internal dialogue being spoken by someone they admire and respect, a mentor, a wise teacher, or even a fictional character who embodies the qualities they want to develop. This technique helps you access different perspectives and ways of speaking to yourself that may be more empowering than your default patterns. The content of your internal dialogue is just as important as the tone. Practice replacing automatic negative commentary with more balanced and empowering perspectives. Instead of saying, "I'm so stupid for making that mistake," try, "I'm learning and growing from this experience." Instead of, "That person is better than me," try, "I can learn something from their success." Instead of, "This is impossible," try, "This is challenging and I'm up for it." Develop the habit of asking yourself better questions. The quality of your internal dialogue improves dramatically when you shift from statements to questions. Instead of saying, "I'll never figure this out," ask yourself, "What's one small step I could take right now?" Instead of saying, "I'm not good at this," ask, "What skills could I develop to improve this situation?" Questions engage your problem-solving mind and lead to solutions rather than reinforcement of limitations. Create internal dialogue protocols for different situations. Prepare empowering scripts for common scenarios like facing challenges, making decisions, dealing with criticism, or pursuing goals. Having these ready allows you to consciously choose your internal response rather than defaulting to old patterns. For example, when facing a challenge, your protocol might be, "This is an opportunity to grow. What can I learn from this situation?" Practice self-compassion in your internal dialogue. Treat yourself with the same kindness, understanding, and forgiveness you would offer a good friend when you make mistakes. Instead of harsh self-criticism, practice saying things like, "Everyone makes mistakes. I'm human, and I'm learning it's okay to not be perfect. I forgive myself, and I'll do better next time." This compassionate internal dialogue creates emotional safety that supports growth and risk-taking. Use your internal dialogue to reinforce your identity and values regularly. Remind yourself of who you are becoming and what you stand for. Statements like, "I am someone who perseveres through challenges. I value growth over comfort. I am committed to my goals. I choose courage over fear." These identity-reinforcing statements help your internal dialogue support your highest self rather than your fears and limitations. Transform your internal dialogue around setbacks and failures. Instead of beating yourself up, use your inner voice to extract lessons and maintain motivation. For example, "I learned something valuable from this experience. This setback is setting me up for a better opportunity. Every failure brings me closer to success. I'm building resilience and character through this challenge." This type of internal dialogue maintains your momentum and optimism. Develop the practice of internal celebration. Use your internal dialogue to acknowledge your efforts, progress, and achievements, no matter how small. "Good job for taking that risk. I'm proud of myself for not giving up. That was a great decision. I'm making real progress." Celebrate yourself internally throughout the day, rather than waiting for external validation. This builds self-confidence and positive momentum. The ultimate goal is to make your internal dialogue your greatest ally and supporter, rather than your biggest critic. When your inner voice consistently encourages you, challenges you to grow, celebrates your efforts, and maintains optimism about your future, you become unstoppable because you always have your own best coach and cheerleader with you wherever you go. Remember that changing your internal dialogue is a practice that requires patience and consistency. You've been listening to your current inner voice for years or decades, so it will take time to establish new patterns, but every conscious choice to speak to yourself with kindness, encouragement, and wisdom strengthens the new neural pathways and weakens the old critical patterns. Your internal dialogue is the soundtrack of your life, and you get to choose whether it's a playlist of empowerment and possibility or a broken record of criticism and limitation. When you master this inner voice, you master your emotional state, your self-concept, and your ability to persist through any challenge toward any goal you desire. Chapter 8. Transforming Negative Thought Spirals. Negative thought spirals are like mental tornadoes that can destroy your peace, confidence, and progress. In a matter of minutes, they typically start with a single negative thought that triggers an emotional response, which generates more negative thoughts, creating a downward spiral that seems impossible to escape. These spirals can be triggered by anything from a critical comment to a setback, to simply remembering a past failure. But understanding how they work gives you the power to interrupt and transform them. The anatomy of a negative thought spiral follows a predictable pattern. It begins with a trigger thought, something that challenges your self-worth, competence, or security. This trigger activates your brain's threat detection system, releasing stress hormones that heighten emotional reactivity. The emotional charge then amplifies the original thought and attracts related negative thoughts, creating a chain reaction that quickly spirals out of control. For example, a simple trigger like receiving constructive feedback at work might generate the initial thought, "Maybe I'm not good enough at my job." This thought creates feelings of anxiety and insecurity, which then attract related thoughts like, "What if I get fired? I'll never find another job this good. Everyone else is more capable than me. I always mess things up within minutes." You can go from mild concern to full-blown panic and self-doubt. The key to stopping negative spirals is recognizing them early, before they gain momentum. The earlier you catch a spiral, the easier it is to interrupt. Most people don't notice they're in a negative spiral until they're deep in emotional distress. But with practice, you can learn to recognize the early warning signs and intervene before the spiral takes hold. Early warning signs include physical sensations like tension in your chest, shoulders, or stomach, changes in breathing patterns, increased heart rate, or feeling restless emotionally. You might notice increased irritability, anxiety, sadness, or a sense of overwhelm mentally. You might observe racing thoughts, repetitive worrying, or difficulty concentrating on anything else. Recognizing these signs allows you to take action before the spiral intensifies. The circuit breaker technique is one of the most effective methods for interrupting negative spirals. The moment you recognize you're spiraling, take immediate action to break the pattern. This might involve physical movement like going for a walk, doing jumping jacks, or changing your environment. It could involve breathing exercises, meditation, or calling a supportive friend. The key is having a predetermined circuit breaker ready to deploy when needed. Physical movement is particularly effective because negative spirals create stuck energy in your body. Moving your body helps release this energy and shift your state. Walking, jogging, dancing, or even vigorous cleaning can break the spiral and create space for more balanced thinking. The movement doesn't have to be intense, just enough to shift your physiology and interrupt the pattern. The perspective shift technique involves consciously zooming out from the immediate situation and asking bigger picture questions like, will this matter in 5 years from now? What would I tell a friend in this situation? What opportunity might be hidden in this challenge? What can I learn from this experience? These questions help you step out of the emotional intensity and access more rational, balanced thinking. Thought stopping is another powerful intervention. When you notice you're spiraling, simply say, "Stop" out loud, or in your mind. This interrupts the automatic flow of negative thoughts and creates a moment of choice. You can then consciously redirect your attention to something more empowering, like a positive memory, a gratitude practice, or an affirmation that counters the negative theme. The evidence examination technique involves challenging the thoughts that fuel the spiral. Ask yourself what evidence supports this negative thought. What evidence contradicts it? Am I assuming the worst-case scenario? Am I personalizing something that isn't really about me? Am I catastrophizing the situation? Most negative spirals are based on distorted thinking patterns that crumble under logical examination. Reframing is essential for transforming spirals into growth opportunities. Instead of seeing the triggering event as proof of your inadequacy, reframe it as information feedback or a chance to develop resilience. For example, instead of "this mistake proves I'm incompetent," try, "This mistake is showing me where I can improve and grow." This shift in interpretation changes the entire emotional tone of the experience. The gratitude interrupt technique involves immediately shifting your focus to things you're grateful for when you notice a negative spiral beginning. This isn't about denying the problem, but about changing your emotional state so you can address the situation from a more resourceful place. Gratitude raises your vibration and makes it difficult for negative thoughts to maintain their grip. Prepare spiral prevention strategies by identifying your common triggers and developing specific responses for each one. If criticism triggers spirals for you, develop a standard response like "All feedback helps me grow and improve." If setbacks trigger spirals, prepare thoughts like "Every setback is a setup for a comeback." Having these ready makes it easier to respond consciously rather than reactively. The future self technique involves asking yourself how the wisest version of you would handle this situation. What advice would your future self give you? What perspective would you have on this situation if you were looking back on it from a place of success and wisdom? This technique helps you access higher perspective and make decisions from your best self rather than your triggered self. Create a spiral recovery protocol for times when you don't catch the spiral early enough and find yourself deep in negative thinking. This protocol should include steps for self-compassion, acknowledging that everyone has difficult moments, grounding techniques to reconnect with the present moment, and action steps to address any real issues that need attention. It's important to understand that having negative thoughts or occasional spirals doesn't mean you're failing at thought control. It means you're human. The goal isn't to never have negative thoughts, but to become skilled at recognizing and redirecting them before they take control of your emotional state and decision-making ability. Practice the 24-hour rule for major spirals. If you find yourself in an intense negative spiral, avoid making important decisions or taking drastic actions for at least 24 hours. This gives your nervous system time to calm down and your rational mind time to regain perspective. Many decisions made during emotional spirals are later regretted when clarity returns. Remember that every time you successfully interrupt and transform a negative spiral, you're strengthening your mental resilience and emotional intelligence. You're proving to yourself that you have power over your mental state, that negative emotions are temporary experiences rather than permanent states. With practice, you'll find that negative spirals become shorter, less intense, and easier to transform. The ultimate goal is to become so skilled at managing your mental state that negative spirals become rare occurrences, and when they do arise, you handle them with grace and efficiency, quickly returning to a state of balance and empowerment. This skill is invaluable because it means that external circumstances can never permanently derail your peace of mind or progress toward your goals. Chapter 9. Building mental immunity against negativity. Just as your body can develop immunity against physical diseases, your mind can develop immunity against mental and emotional toxins that drain your energy, lower your vibration, and derail your progress. Building mental immunity means creating robust psychological defenses that automatically protect you from negative influences while maintaining your positive mental state regardless of external circumstances. Mental immunity begins with understanding that negativity is contagious. Thoughts, emotions, and energy states transfer between people through what scientists call emotional contagion. When you spend time around negative, pessimistic, or toxic people, their mental state unconsciously influences yours. This happens through mirror neurons in your brain that automatically mimic the emotional states of others as a survival mechanism to help you fit in with your tribe. But just as you can consciously strengthen your physical immune system through proper nutrition, exercise, and rest, you can strengthen your mental immune system through specific practices and awareness. This doesn't mean becoming cold or uncaring. It means developing the ability to maintain your own positive mental state while still being compassionate and helpful to others when appropriate. The first component of mental immunity is energetic awareness, learning to recognize how different people, situations, and environments affect your mental and emotional state. Start paying attention to how you feel before, during, and after interactions with different people. Notice which relationships leave you feeling energized versus drained, which environments support your positive mindset versus those that challenge it. Keep an energy journal for a week, noting your mental and emotional state at different times throughout the day. Rate your energy, mood, and optimism on a scale from 1 to 10, and note what factors might have influenced these states. This data will help you identify patterns and understand which influences strengthen your mental immunity versus those that compromise it. Develop strong boundaries around your mental environment. Boundaries are not walls that keep people out. They are filters that allow positive influences in, while keeping negative influences out. Learn to say no to conversations that drain your energy, relationships that consistently bring you down, and media consumption that fills your mind with fear, anger, or pessimism. Practice selective attention when you can't avoid negative environments or people. Consciously choose where to direct your mental focus. You can be physically present while mentally focused on your goals, values, or positive aspects of the situation. This skill allows you to maintain your mental state even in challenging circumstances. The mental shield technique involves visualizing yourself surrounded by a protective barrier that allows positive energy in while deflecting negative energy before entering potentially challenging situations. Take a moment to visualize this protective shield and set the intention to maintain your positive state, regardless of what you encounter. This mental preparation primes your subconscious to filter experiences through a protective lens. Strengthen your core mental programming by regularly reinforcing positive beliefs about yourself, your capabilities, and your future. When your core programming is strong and positive, it becomes much harder for external negativity to take root. Develop daily practices that reinforce empowering beliefs about who you are and what you're capable of achieving. Create mental antibodies for common negative influences. Just as vaccines expose you to small amounts of a disease to build immunity, you can mentally rehearse how you'll respond to common negative situations. Practice maintaining your positive state when faced with criticism, pessimism, drama, or other people's problems. This mental rehearsal prepares you to respond from strength rather than react from weakness. The deflection technique involves consciously redirecting negative energy back to its source without absorbing it. When someone directs negativity toward you mentally, imagine it bouncing off your mental shield and returning to them while sending them thoughts of compassion. This prevents you from taking on their negative state while maintaining your own emotional balance. Develop a negativity recovery protocol for times when your mental immunity is compromised. This should include immediate actions like deep breathing affirmations or physical movement, as well as longer-term restoration practices like meditation, gratitude, journaling, or spending time in nature. Having a protocol ready prevents temporary exposure to negativity from creating lasting damage to your mental state. Surround yourself with positivity. Boosters people, activities, and environments that naturally elevate your mental state and strengthen your immunity. These might include uplifting friends, inspiring books, beautiful music, nature time, exercise, or spiritual practices. The more you expose yourself to positive influences, the stronger your natural resistance to negativity becomes. Practice the energy audit technique regularly. Assess whether your current relationships, activities, and commitments are strengthening or weakening your mental immunity. Be willing to make changes that protect your mental health and support your goals. This might mean reducing time with draining people, increasing time in nurturing activities, or changing your environment to one that better supports your well-being. The mental filter system involves consciously choosing what information and energy you allow into your mental space. Just as you might filter water to remove toxins, filter the information you consume to remove mental toxins. Choose media that informs without overwhelming news sources, that report facts without sensationalism, and entertainment that uplifts rather than disturbs. Develop the observer perspective when faced with negativity. Step back mentally and observe the situation without getting emotionally entangled. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this situation? How can I maintain my peace? What positive response would serve everyone best? This perspective keeps you engaged with life while protecting your mental state. Build emotional resilience through regular challenge and recovery. Just as physical exercise involves controlled stress that builds strength, expose yourself to manageable challenges that build your mental strength. This might involve having difficult conversations, taking calculated risks, or facing fears in a controlled way with proper support and recovery time. The mental immune system also benefits from regular maintenance practices. Just as you maintain physical health through daily habits, maintain your mental immunity through consistent positive practices like meditation, exercise, gratitude, journaling, affirming your goals, and spending time with supportive people. These practices keep your mental defenses strong and your positive programming active. Remember that building mental immunity is an ongoing process, not a one-time achievement. The stronger your mental immunity becomes, the more freedom you have to engage with the world while maintaining your positive state. This allows you to be helpful to others, handle challenges with grace, and persist toward your goals, regardless of external circumstances. The ultimate goal of mental immunity is not to become isolated or insensitive, but to become so mentally and emotionally strong that you can maintain your positive state while being fully engaged with life. When you have strong mental immunity, you become a source of strength and positivity for others rather than being drained by their challenges. Chapter 10. The Art of Mental Focus and Concentration. In our hyper-connected world, the ability to focus your mind on a single task, thought, or goal has become a rare and valuable skill. The average person checks their phone over 150 times per day, switches between tasks every 3 minutes, and maintains deep focus for less than 6 minutes at a time. But the most successful people in any field have mastered the art of sustained mental focus, which allows them to achieve more in a few hours than most people accomplish in days. Mental focus is not just about productivity, it's about the quality of your thoughts and the depth of your mental engagement. When your mind is scattered and jumping between topics, your thoughts remain shallow and your insights limited. But when you can focus deeply on a single subject, your mind can access creative solutions, profound insights, and breakthrough ideas that are impossible to reach with a fragmented attention span. The foundation of mental focus is understanding how your attention works. Your mind has two primary modes of attention focused: attention, which allows you to concentrate on specific tasks, and open monitoring, which allows you to be aware of your environment and internal state. Both modes are important, but most people spend too much time in open monitoring and not enough time in focused attention. Focused attention is like a muscle. It becomes stronger with exercise and weaker with neglect. Every time you choose to focus on one thing while ignoring distractions, you strengthen your attention muscle. Every time you give in to distractions or allow your mind to wander aimlessly, you weaken it. This means that developing focus is a matter of consistent practice and conscious choice. The first step in developing mental focus is eliminating external distractions. Create a focused environment by removing or silencing devices that interrupt your attention. Close unnecessary browser tabs, put your phone in another room, and let others know when you need uninterrupted time. These external changes make it easier for your mind to settle into deep focus. Internal distractions are often more challenging than external ones. These include worrying about other tasks, thinking about problems or conflicts, daydreaming about the future, or getting lost in memories from the past. The key to managing internal distractions is acknowledging them without engagement. When a distracting thought arises, simply note it and return your attention to your chosen focus. Practice single tasking in a culture that glorifies multitasking. Choosing to focus on one thing at a time is a radical act, but research clearly shows that multitasking reduces efficiency, increases errors, and prevents deep thinking. Instead of trying to do multiple things at once, dedicate specific time blocks to individual tasks and give each one your complete attention. The Pomodoro technique is an effective method for building focus endurance work. For 25 minutes of focused attention, followed by a 5-minute break. Then repeat this cycle. The short time frame makes deep focus feel manageable, while the breaks prevent mental fatigue over time. You can gradually extend the focused work periods as your attention muscle becomes stronger. Deep work sessions are essential for developing advanced focus skills. These are longer periods of uninterrupted focus, typically 1 to 4 hours, dedicated to cognitively demanding tasks. During deep work sessions, you should eliminate distractions and immerse yourself completely in the task at hand. This type of focused work produces the highest quality output and the greatest sense of accomplishment. Use focal objects to train your concentration. Meditation traditions have long used objects like candles, flames, breathing, or mantras as focal points for training attention. You can apply this principle to everyday focus training by choosing a specific object, sound, or sensation to return to whenever your mind wanders. This trains your ability to notice when attention drifts and consciously redirect it. The anchoring technique involves choosing a physical anchor for your attention. This might be your breath, the feeling of your feet on the ground, or the sensation of your hands on your keyboard when you notice your mind wandering return. Attention to your chosen anchor. This creates a reliable method for returning to focused attention quickly and easily. Practice selective attention by consciously choosing what to focus on in complex environments. This might involve focusing on a single conversation in a noisy room, one element of a complex visual scene, or one aspect of a multifaceted problem. This skill allows you to maintain focus even when you can't control your environment completely. The question focus technique involves formulating specific questions to guide your attention. Instead of trying to focus on a general topic, create specific questions that direct your mental energy. For example, instead of thinking about improving your business, focus on the question, what is one thing I could do today to better serve my customers? Specific questions create focused attention automatically. Energy management is crucial for sustained focus. Your ability to concentrate fluctuates throughout the day based on your circadian rhythms, sleep quality, nutrition, and stress levels. Identify your peak focus hours and protect them for your most important work. Save routine tasks for times when your focus naturally wanes and prioritize sleep, exercise, and nutrition to maintain optimal cognitive function. Progressive focus training involves gradually increasing the difficulty and duration of your focus challenges. Start with simple tasks that require minimal concentration and progressively work up to more complex and demanding activities. This builds your focus muscle systematically and prevents the frustration that comes from attempting advanced focus work before building the necessary foundation. Create focus rituals that signal to your brain, it's time for deep concentration. This might involve clearing your workspace, making a specific beverage, setting a timer, or doing brief breathing exercises. Having a consistent ritual helps your mind transition from scattered attention to focused attention more quickly and reliably. The meta-attention practice involves becoming aware of your attention itself rather than just focusing on tasks periodically. Check in with yourself and ask, where is my attention right now? Am I focused or distracted? If distracted, what pulled my attention away? This awareness allows you to catch attention drift early and return to focus before getting completely derailed. Meditation is perhaps the most powerful practice for developing focus skills. Even 10 minutes of daily meditation significantly improves attention span, reduces mind wandering, and increases cognitive control. Meditation trains the fundamental skill of noticing when your mind wanders and returning attention to your chosen focus. This skill transfers directly to all other focus challenges. The goal of focus training is not to eliminate all thoughts or achieve perfect concentration, but to develop the ability to choose where your attention goes and maintain that choice for extended periods. When you master mental focus, you gain the power to think deeply, solve complex problems, and achieve levels of performance that seemed impossible when your attention was scattered and reactive. Remember that focus is not about forcing your mind into rigid concentration, but about developing a relaxed yet alert state of attention, where you can sustain focus without strain. This relaxed focus is more sustainable and productive than tense concentration, and it allows for both depth and creativity in your thinking. Chapter 11. Creating empowering mental habits. Your life is essentially the sum of your habits, and your habits are the result of your repeated thoughts. Every action you take, every decision you make, and every result you create flows from the mental patterns that have become automatic in your mind. Most people focus on changing external behaviors while ignoring the thought patterns that drive those behaviors. But when you create empowering mental habits, your external life transforms naturally and effortlessly. Mental habits are neural pathways that have been strengthened through repetition until they become your default way of thinking about specific situations, relationships, challenges, or opportunities. These pathways determine whether you automatically think empowering or limiting thoughts when faced with adversity, whether you focus on problems or solutions, whether you see obstacles or opportunities, and whether you respond from fear or confidence. The most successful people have developed mental habits that automatically support their goals and vision. They've trained their minds to default to empowering perspectives, resourceful questions, and solution-focused thinking. This mental programming gives them a massive advantage because they don't have to consciously choose empowering thoughts. Their minds automatically generate them. The foundation of creating empowering mental habits is identifying your current automatic thought patterns. Spend a week observing your mental responses to common situations like facing challenges, receiving feedback, dealing with setbacks, or pursuing goals. Notice what thoughts automatically arise and whether these thoughts empower or limit you. This awareness is essential because you can't change patterns you're not conscious of. Start with one specific mental habit at a time. Trying to change multiple thought patterns simultaneously often leads to overwhelm and failure. Choose one area where an empowering mental habit would make the biggest difference in your life. This might be how you think about challenges, your self-talk during difficult times, or your automatic thoughts about your capabilities and potential. The replacement habit technique involves consciously replacing limiting automatic thoughts with empowering ones. Every time you catch the old pattern arising, immediately substitute the new empowering thought. For example, if you automatically think this is too hard, when facing challenges, replace it with this is an opportunity to grow and learn. The key is consistency and immediate replacement without delay. Use trigger identification to make habit change easier. Identify the specific situations, people, or circumstances that trigger your limiting thought patterns. Then prepare empowering responses for each trigger. When you know that criticism triggers self-doubt thoughts, you can prepare. The replacement thought feedback helps me improve and succeed. This preparation makes it easier to respond consciously rather than automatically. The visualization rehearsal method involves mentally practicing your new thought habits before you encounter triggering situations. Spend time visualizing yourself, thinking the new empowering thoughts in specific scenarios. See yourself responding with confidence, optimism, and resourcefulness. This mental rehearsal strengthens the new neural pathways and makes the empowering response more automatic. Create thought habit cues that remind you to engage your new mental patterns. These might be physical cues like a bracelet or ring that reminds you to think positively, visual cues like inspiring quotes in your environment, or digital cues like phone reminders that prompt empowering thoughts throughout the day. These cues help bridge the gap between old automatic patterns and new conscious choices. The 21-day challenge is a powerful method for establishing new mental habits. Commit to practicing your new thought pattern consistently. For 21 days, research suggests that this time frame is often sufficient to begin establishing new neural pathways, though deeper habits may take longer. Track your progress daily and celebrate small wins to maintain motivation and momentum. Stack new mental habits onto existing routines to make them easier to remember. For example, practice gratitude thoughts every time you brush your teeth, or empowering affirmations every time you start your car. This habit stacking technique leverages existing automatic behaviors to trigger new mental patterns, making them more likely to stick. The environmental design approach involves structuring your environment to support empowering mental habits. Surround yourself with visual reminders of your goals, inspiring quotes, books that reinforce positive thinking, and people who model empowering thought patterns. Your environment constantly influences your thoughts, so making it supportive accelerates habit formation. Practice the pause and choose technique. When you notice old limiting thoughts arising, pause for a moment and consciously choose a more empowering alternative. This brief pause creates space between trigger and response, allowing you to engage your new mental habit rather than defaulting to the old pattern over time. This conscious choice becomes automatic. The accountability system involves sharing your mental habit goals with supportive friends, mentors, or coaches. Having someone check in on your progress and celebrate your wins creates external motivation and support that makes habit change easier. You might also join groups of like-minded people who are working on similar mental development goals. Use positive self-talk to reinforce your new mental habits. Praise yourself for catching old patterns and choosing new ones. Acknowledge your progress and commitment to growth, and remind yourself that you're developing the mental patterns of highly successful people. This positive reinforcement strengthens your motivation and self-efficacy for continued change. The compound effect principle applies powerfully to mental habits. Small, consistent changes in your thought patterns create massive results over time. Each empowering thought you choose strengthens that neural pathway while weakening limiting patterns. Gradually, your default thinking becomes more positive, resourceful, and aligned with your goals, without requiring conscious effort. Create different mental habits for different life areas. You might develop specific thought patterns for handling work, challenges, relationship conflicts, financial decisions, health choices, and personal growth goals. Having area-specific mental habits ensures that you respond empoweringly across all aspects of your life, rather than just in certain situations. Monitor your progress by tracking both the frequency of old limiting thoughts and the consistency of new empowering ones. Keep a simple log of how often you catch yourself in old patterns versus how often you successfully engage new habits. This data helps you see progress that might not be immediately obvious and identifies areas that need more attention. Remember that mental habit formation is a process, not an event. There will be days when you revert to old patterns or forget to engage new ones. This is normal and doesn't mean you're failing. The key is getting back on track quickly, without self-judgment. Each time you choose the empowering thought over the limiting one, you're strengthening your mental mastery. The ultimate goal is to make empowering thinking so automatic that you don't have to consciously work at it. Your mind naturally defaults to thoughts that support your goals, increase your confidence, and expand your possibilities. When this happens, you've successfully reprogrammed your mental operating system for success and fulfillment. Chapter 12. Developing mental resilience and emotional stability. Mental resilience is your mind's ability to bounce back from setbacks, maintain stability during turbulent times, and continue moving forward despite challenges, obstacles, or temporary failures. While many people believe resilience is an innate trait that you either have or don't have, the truth is that mental resilience is a skill that can be developed, strengthened, and mastered through specific practices and mindset shifts. The foundation of mental resilience lies in understanding that your emotional stability is not dependent on external circumstances, but on your internal response to those circumstances. Resilient people experience the same challenges, disappointments, and setbacks as everyone else, but they have trained their minds to process these experiences differently, maintaining their emotional equilibrium and forward momentum. Resilient thinking involves viewing challenges as temporary, specific, and surmountable, rather than permanent, global, and insurmountable when faced with a setback. Instead of thinking "this always happens to me," they think "this is a temporary situation that I can overcome." Instead of thinking "I'm a failure," they think "I made a mistake and I can learn from it." These subtle shifts in perspective create dramatically different emotional responses. The cognitive flexibility practice involves consciously looking for multiple perspectives on challenging situations when something goes wrong. Ask yourself, what are 3 different ways I could interpret this situation? What would an optimist say about this? What would someone who has overcome similar challenges think about this? This practice prevents you from getting locked into one negative interpretation. Emotional regulation skills are essential for mental resilience. These include the ability to recognize emotions as they arise, understand what triggers them, and choose how to respond rather than react. Automatically practice identifying emotions by name when they occur. This simple labeling reduces their intensity and gives you more conscious control over your response. The reset routine technique involves developing specific practices that help you return to emotional stability after being knocked off balance. This might include deep breathing exercises, physical movement, meditation, journaling, or talking to a supportive friend. Having a predetermined reset routine prevents temporary setbacks from becoming prolonged periods of emotional instability. Build your stress tolerance gradually by intentionally exposing yourself to manageable challenges that stretch your comfort zone, but don't overwhelm you. This might involve having difficult conversations, taking calculated risks, speaking in public, or learning new skills. Each successful navigation of challenge builds confidence in your ability to handle future difficulties. The meaning-making practice involves finding purpose and lessons in difficult experiences. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What is this experience teaching me? How can I grow from this situation? What opportunities might emerge from this challenge?" This shift from victim mentality to growth mindset transforms obstacles into stepping stones. Develop a support network of people who can provide perspective, encouragement, and practical help during challenging times. Resilient people don't try to handle everything alone. They understand that seeking support is a sign of wisdom, not weakness. Cultivate relationships with mentors, friends, family members, or professionals who can offer different types of support when needed. The future focus technique involves maintaining a clear vision of your goals and values, even during difficult times when you're going through temporary challenges. Regularly remind yourself of your bigger purpose and long-term objectives. This perspective helps you see current difficulties as temporary detours rather than permanent destinations. Practice the worst-case scenario exercise to reduce anxiety about potential problems. When you're worried about something, ask yourself, what's the worst that could reasonably happen? How would I handle that situation? What resources and strengths do I have to deal with it? Usually, you'll discover that even worst-case scenarios are manageable and far less likely than your anxiety suggests. Physical resilience supports mental resilience, so prioritize practices that strengthen your body's ability to handle stress. Regular exercise, adequate sleep, proper nutrition, and stress management techniques like meditation or yoga all contribute to your overall resilience. The mind and body are interconnected, so caring for one supports the other. The reframe and redirect strategy involves consciously changing your mental focus. When you notice yourself dwelling on problems, setbacks, or negative scenarios, instead of suppressing these thoughts, acknowledge them briefly, then deliberately redirect your attention to solutions, opportunities, or positive aspects of your situation. This prevents rumination and maintains forward momentum. Develop emotional boundaries that protect your mental stability from other people's drama, negativity, or instability. You can be compassionate and supportive without absorbing others' emotional states. Practice maintaining your own center while offering appropriate help. This skill prevents you from being emotionally hijacked by others' problems. The gratitude and appreciation practice builds resilience by training your mind to notice positive aspects of your life, even during difficult times. Regularly acknowledge things you're grateful for, progress you've made, strengths you possess. This practice doesn't deny problems, but ensures that challenges don't completely overshadow the good in your life. Create personal mantras or affirmations that reinforce your resilience during tough times. These might include phrases like, "I am stronger than any challenge, this too shall pass. I have overcome difficulties before, and I can do it again. I am." Growing through this experience, these statements remind you of your inner strength when external circumstances feel overwhelming. The acceptance and action approach involves distinguishing between what you can and cannot control. Accept the aspects of difficult situations that are beyond your influence, while taking decisive action on elements you can control. This prevents you from wasting energy on unchangeable circumstances and directs your power toward areas where you can make a difference. Practice self-compassion during difficult times. Instead of harsh self-criticism, treat yourself with the same kindness you would show a good friend facing similar challenges. Acknowledge that struggle is part of the human experience and that having difficult times doesn't make you weak or flawed. This compassionate stance supports recovery and growth. Mental resilience is not about being unaffected by challenges or maintaining constant positivity. It's about developing the skills to navigate difficulties with grace, maintain perspective during storms, and bounce back stronger from setbacks. When you master these skills, you become anti-fragile, gaining strength from stress rather than being diminished by it. Chapter 13. The power of visualization and mental rehearsal. Your brain cannot distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. When you engage in detailed mental rehearsal, your neural networks fire in the same patterns as if you were actually performing the activity. This makes visualization one of the most powerful tools for programming your mind for success, improving performance, and accelerating the achievement of your goals. Olympic athletes have used visualization for decades, mentally rehearsing their events in perfect detail before competing. Studies show that athletes who combine physical practice with mental rehearsal improve their performance significantly, more than those who only practice physically. The same principle applies to any area of life where you want to excel. Effective visualization requires engaging all your senses, not just visual imagery. When mentally rehearsing a desired outcome, include what you would see, hear, feel, smell, and taste. In that scenario, the more sensory detail you include, the more real the experience becomes to your subconscious mind, and the more powerful the programming effect. The mental movie technique involves creating detailed internal films of yourself, successfully achieving your goals. See yourself performing at your best, handling challenges with ease, and experiencing the satisfaction of accomplishment. Watch this mental movie regularly with emotional engagement, as if you're directing and starring in your own success story. Outcome visualization focuses on the end result you want to achieve, while process visualization focuses on the steps and actions needed to reach that outcome. Both types are important. Outcome visualization maintains motivation and emotional connection, while process visualization programs the specific behaviors and decisions that create success. Practice both regularly for maximum effectiveness. The future self-visualization involves imagining yourself 1, 5, or 10 years in the future, having achieved your major goals. See yourself living your ideal life, experiencing the emotions of success, and embodying the qualities you want to develop. This practice helps you make decisions from your future successful self rather than your current limitations. Use visualization to rehearse challenging situations before they occur. If you have an important presentation, job interview, or difficult conversation coming up mentally, rehearse handling it successfully. See yourself staying calm, confident, and articulate. Visualize positive outcomes and your skillful navigation of any challenges that might arise. This preparation primes your mind for success. The ideal day visualization involves mentally walking through a perfect day in your life from the moment you wake up until you go to sleep. See yourself making empowering choices, feeling energized and motivated, and accomplishing your priorities. This practice programs your subconscious with a template for optimal daily living. Emotional rehearsal is crucial for effective visualization. As you imagine achieving your goals, fully experience the emotions of success. Feel the pride, satisfaction, joy, and confidence that accomplishment would bring. These positive emotions create neural patterns that support the behaviors needed to turn visualization into reality. The obstacle override technique involves visualizing yourself successfully overcoming potential challenges rather than only imagining perfect scenarios. See yourself handling setbacks with grace, persisting through difficulties, and finding creative solutions to problems. This mental rehearsal builds confidence in your ability to handle whatever challenges might arise. Create visualization anchors physical gestures or mental triggers that you can use to quickly access the mental state you've developed through visualization practice. For example, you might create a specific hand gesture that instantly reconnects you with the confidence and clarity you've cultivated in your mental rehearsals. The environmental visualization practice involves imagining yourself thriving in the specific environments where you want to succeed. See yourself excelling in your workplace, performing well in social situations, or succeeding in the physical spaces where your goals will unfold. This environmental programming helps you feel more comfortable and confident in these settings. Use guided visualization recordings to support your practice. Especially when learning the technique, many people find it easier to follow along with structured guidance rather than creating their own visualizations from scratch. As your skills develop, you can create increasingly personalized and specific mental rehearsals. The multi-perspective visualization technique involves seeing your success from different viewpoints. Imagine watching yourself succeed from the perspective of an outside observer, from the viewpoint of people you respect, and from your own first-person experience. This multidimensional approach strengthens the neural programming and makes the visualization more compelling. Practice emergency visualization for times when you need quick mental preparation. If you find yourself facing an unexpected challenge or opportunity, take a few moments to quickly visualize handling the situation successfully. This rapid mental rehearsal can significantly improve your performance, even with minimal preparation time. The progressive visualization method involves gradually building up complex mental rehearsals. Start with simple, short visualizations and progressively add more detail, duration, and complexity. As your skills develop, this approach prevents overwhelm and builds your visualization abilities systematically over time. Consistency is more important than perfection in visualization practice. Even 5 minutes of daily mental rehearsal is more effective than occasional longer sessions. The key is regular engagement with your mental programming, making visualization a habitual part of your success preparation routine. Combine visualization with affirmations and physical practice for maximum effectiveness. The three together create powerful multimodal programming that accelerates the development of new neural pathways and the manifestation of your desired outcomes. Visualization provides the template, affirmations reinforce the beliefs, and physical practice develops the skills. Remember that visualization is not wishful thinking or passive daydreaming. It's active mental programming that creates real neurological changes in your brain. when combined with consistent action toward your goals. Visualization becomes a powerful accelerator that helps you achieve success faster and more efficiently than action alone. Chapter 14. Mastering your mental environment. Your mental environment is just as important as your physical environment in determining your success, happiness, and overall life experience. Just as you wouldn't want to live in a cluttered, chaotic physical space, you shouldn't allow your mental space to be filled with negative thoughts, toxic influences, and energy-draining patterns. Mastering your mental environment means consciously curating the inputs, thoughts, and influences that shape your consciousness. Most people are unconscious consumers of mental content. They absorb whatever thoughts, information, and energy happen to be around them without considering how these inputs affect their mindset, motivation, and mental state. But successful people are intentional curators of their mental environment. They carefully choose what thoughts to entertain, what information to consume, and what influences to allow into their consciousness. The input audit process involves examining all the sources of mental input in your life, including the people you spend time with, the media you consume, the books you read, the conversations you engage in, and the physical environments you frequent. Ask yourself, does this input elevate my thinking, expand my possibilities, and support my goals, or does it diminish my mental state and reinforce limitations? Information diet is a crucial concept for mental environment mastery. Just as junk food affects your physical health, junk information affects your mental health. This includes negative news, sensationalized media, gossip, toxic social media content, and any information that creates fear, anxiety, or mental clutter. Instead, choose information sources that educate, inspire, and empower you. The relationship evaluation practice involves assessing how different relationships impact your mental environment. Some people consistently elevate your thinking, challenge you to grow and support your aspirations, while others drain your energy, reinforce limiting beliefs, and pull you toward negativity. Spend more time with mental elevators and less time with mental drainers. Create positive mental anchors throughout your physical environment. Place inspiring quotes, meaningful images, vision boards, and reminders of your goals in spaces where you'll see them regularly. These visual cues continuously reinforce empowering thoughts and keep your mind focused on what you want to create rather than what you want to avoid. The mental hygiene routine involves daily practices that cleanse your mind of accumulated mental clutter, just as you brush your teeth for physical hygiene. Develop routines that clear negative thoughts, release mental tension, and restore positive mental energy. This might include meditation, journaling, gratitude practice, or spending time in nature. Establish mental boundaries around negative influences. This doesn't mean becoming isolated or insensitive, but it does mean protecting your mental space from unnecessary toxicity. You can be compassionate toward others without absorbing their negativity. You can stay informed without being overwhelmed by alarming news, and you can be helpful without taking on others' problems. The conscious consumption practice involves being intentional about what you allow into your mind through entertainment, media, social platforms, and casual reading. Choose content that aligns with your values, supports your growth, and maintains your positive mental state. Avoid content that creates anxiety, promotes comparison, or reinforces limiting beliefs about what's possible. Design your physical environment to support positive mental states. Organize your spaces to feel calm and inspiring. Remove clutter that creates mental static, and add elements that promote peace, creativity, and focus. Your external environment constantly influences your internal state. So, making it supportive enhances your mental clarity and emotional stability. The morning mental preparation routine involves starting each day by consciously setting your mental environment before engaging with external influences. This might include meditation, affirmations, visualization, or reading something inspiring. Starting your day with intentional mental programming helps you maintain a positive state regardless of what challenges arise. Practice selective engagement in conversations and discussions. Choose to participate in conversations that are constructive, educational, or uplifting. While minimizing involvement in gossip, complaints, or drama, you don't have to be rude or antisocial, but you can guide conversations toward more positive directions or gracefully exit when discussions become toxic. The evening mental cleansing practice involves clearing your mind of accumulated stress, negativity, and mental clutter before sleep. This might include journaling about the day's experiences, releasing any worries or frustrations, focusing on gratitude and positive anticipation for tomorrow. This practice prevents negative mental residue from affecting your sleep and tomorrow's mental state. Curate your social media and digital environments to support rather than undermine your mental well-being. Unfollow accounts that promote comparison, negativity, or content that doesn't serve your growth. Follow accounts that inspire, educate, and motivate you. Use technology as a tool for mental elevation rather than mental degradation. The mental sanctuary practice involves creating internal spaces of peace and positivity that you can access, regardless of external circumstances, through visualization and mental training. Develop the ability to retreat into calm, empowering mental spaces whenever you need restoration or protection from negative environmental influences. Surround yourself with growth-oriented people who challenge you to think bigger, dream larger, and become better. Seek out mentors, peers, and friends who model the mental attitudes and thinking patterns you want to develop. Their influence will naturally elevate your own mental environment and accelerate your personal development. The energy management approach involves recognizing that everything you encounter carries energy that affects your mental state. Learn to identify high-energy positive influences versus low-energy draining influences. Then make conscious choices to spend more time and attention on inputs that raise your energy and mental state, while minimizing exposure to energy drainers. Remember that mastering your mental environment is an ongoing practice that requires vigilance and conscious choice in a world full of mental pollution. It takes intentional effort to maintain a clean, positive mental space, but the payoff in terms of increased happiness, motivation, and success makes this effort one of the most valuable investments you can make. Chapter 15. Creating your new mental reality. You now stand at a crucial threshold, armed with the knowledge and tools to completely transform your mental landscape, and with it, your entire life experience. Everything you've learned about thought, control, neuroplasticity, habit formation, and mental mastery has prepared you for this moment where you shift from learning about mental transformation to actually creating your new mental reality. Your new mental reality begins with a clear vision of who you want to become and how you want to think. This isn't about perfection or eliminating all challenging thoughts. It's about consciously designing a mental operating system that consistently supports your highest goals, values, and aspirations. Take time to define specifically what empowered thinking looks like for you in different areas of your life. The identity shift process involves consciously evolving from someone who experiences random thoughts to someone who deliberately chooses their mental focus. This requires updating your self-concept from victim of your mind to master of your mental domain. This identity shift is crucial because you will always act in alignment with who you believe yourself to be. Create your personal mental constitution, a set of core principles and commitments that govern your thinking. This might include commitments like I choose thoughts that empower rather than limit me. I focus on solutions rather than problems. Interpret challenges as opportunities for growth. I maintain gratitude, even in difficult times. These principles become your mental North Star. The integration phase involves consistently applying everything you've learned until these new mental patterns become automatic. This requires patience with yourself as you develop new neural pathways and gradually replace old automatic patterns with consciously chosen empowering ones. Remember that lasting change happens through consistent practice over time, not through single moments of insight. Develop your daily mental training routine, just as athletes train their bodies daily. You must train your mind daily. This routine should include practices like morning intention, setting throughout the day, thought, monitoring, evening mental review, and regular visualization or meditation sessions. Consistency in these practices creates the neurological changes that make new thinking patterns automatic. The accountability system involves creating external support for your mental transformation. This might include working with a coach or mentor, joining a group of like-minded individuals, tracking your progress in a journal, or simply sharing your commitment with supportive friends. Having external accountability significantly increases your likelihood of following through on your mental development goals. Practice mental flexibility as you implement these changes while having clear intentions and goals. Remain open to adjusting your approach. As you learn what works best for you, some techniques will resonate more than others. Some practices will fit better into your lifestyle, and some challenges will require modified approaches. This flexibility prevents perfectionism from undermining your progress. The compound effect principle applies powerfully to mental transformation. Small daily improvements in your thinking patterns create massive long-term changes in your life quality. Each empowering thought you choose, each negative pattern you interrupt, and each positive mental habit you strengthen contributes to the cumulative transformation of your mental reality. Monitor your progress by tracking both internal changes in your mental state and external changes in your life circumstances. Notice improvements in your emotional stability, confidence, decision-making, creativity, and overall life satisfaction. These changes confirm that your mental transformation is creating real results in your lived experience. Handle setbacks and challenges as natural parts of the growth process. There will be days when you revert to old thinking patterns or struggle to maintain your new mental habits. This is normal and expected. Rather than using setbacks as evidence that change is impossible, use them as information about what needs more attention or different approaches. The teaching and sharing phase involves helping others who are beginning their own mental transformation journey. Teaching what you've learned deepens your own understanding and commitment while contributing to others' growth. This sharing also creates community connections with people who value mental development and conscious living. Create environmental supports for your new mental reality. Surround yourself with reminders of your mental goals, inspiring materials, and people who support your growth. Remove or minimize influences that pull you back toward old limiting patterns. Your environment should reinforce your new mental identity rather than challenging it. The long-term vision involves seeing mental mastery as a lifelong journey rather than a destination. There will always be new levels of mental sophistication to achieve new challenges that test your mental skills and new opportunities. Apply your enhanced thinking abilities. Embrace this ongoing growth rather than seeking a final state of mental perfection. Your new mental reality becomes your new life reality. As your thinking patterns transform, everything else follows. Your relationships improve because you think more clearly about connection and communication. Your career advances because you think more strategically and confidently about opportunities. Your health improves because you think more positively about self-care. and your overall life satisfaction increases because you think more appreciatively about your experiences. The ripple effect of your mental transformation extends beyond your personal life as you become more positive, confident, and mentally clear. You naturally influence others in positive ways. Your family benefits from your emotional stability. Your colleagues benefit from your solution-focused thinking. And your community benefits from your optimistic presence. Remember that creating your new mental reality is not about becoming a different person. It's about becoming the fullest expression of who you truly are, beneath all the limiting thoughts and negative patterns that were never really you. To begin with, you're not adding something foreign to yourself. You're removing what doesn't belong and allowing your natural mental clarity and wisdom to shine through. This is your moment to step fully into your power as the conscious creator of your mental experience, and through that, your entire life experience. You have the knowledge, the tools, and the capability to think thoughts that serve your highest good and create the life you truly desire. The only question remaining is, will you use this power? Your journey of mental mastery begins now, with the very next thought you choose to think. Make it an empowering one, and then choose another and another until empowering thinking becomes as natural as breathing. When you master your thoughts, you master your life. And when you master your life, you become an inspiration and beacon of possibility for everyone around you. The power has always been yours. Now you know how to use it.